Hello, welcome back to my channel, Charlie's Lessons, and in this video we're taking a look at a mistake that I've made and I'm pretty sure you've made as a teacher when teaching vocabulary to your students. A few years ago I was teaching a group of 7-year-olds. Now don't really think about this too much, actually sometimes it comes up in my nightmares. But when I was teaching these students, it took me a while to get them really engaged and interested in my lessons. I'd say about 3 or 4 months actually. But one of the reasons why I did finally get them engaged was because I stopped making this mistake, which I'm going to talk to you about today. So in the course book, there was a unit on wild animals, and obviously there were animals such as giraffes, lions, crocodiles, even ostriches. And while this was all fine, I started teaching this vocabulary, I soon realized that, hang on, when are my students actually going to use this vocabulary outside of the classroom? Now I was thinking, okay, maybe they're going to go to the zoo. They might do that maybe once a year or once every 2 years. So I got thinking, okay, what vocabulary related to animals could I teach them that they will actually use? And so what I did was I just took a walk around the city and started noticing, okay, there's a seagull, there's a pigeon, there's a sparrow, and even because I live near the beach, there was jellyfish, for example. And I was thinking, okay, if I teach my students this language, they're definitely going to use this. So I went away and I started putting together some worksheets using Canva, which I'm going to link above. And I included images of the animals I just mentioned. And I took this into class and it was night and day. My students were so much more interested in these animals than the ones we've been looking at before. And I thought this is great because not only are they going to use it even today or after the class or even very soon, but they're also going to be able to use this language in front of their friends. They're going to be able to use this language in front of their parents perhaps. And this is all going to make a really positive impression on anyone and everyone around them. I even included the word cockroach, which is actually a common insect around here. Luckily, I don't have any in my house. But I remember one day one of my students came back after we'd been teaching this vocabulary and said, "Teacher, I saw a cockroach and I killed it." And I thought, well, that's actually not what I intended, but anyway, it was good that he was using it. So why do we keep making this mistake, and why do I see teachers keep making this mistake with vocabulary? It's usually because if you're using a course book, then this is like a safety blanket. A lot of teachers don't want to go outside the confines of the course book. If the course book has a set of vocabulary, then that's the vocabulary you're gonna teach. And a lot of teachers don't really think about what is the vocabulary that my students actually need or what they're actually going to use. So how do we avoid making this mistake as teachers when we teach vocabulary? So one of the first things you can do is a needs analysis. What is a needs analysis? Well, a needs analysis is basically in the first few classes or the first few weeks with a new group is finding out as much as you can about them by asking them what they do in their free time, what their interests are, and so on. I actually talked about this in another video that I'm just linking above right now on how you should always do a needs analysis with groups of students or even individual students. So the second thing we can do to avoid making this mistake is to do what I did, which is to become aware of your students' surroundings. So in my example, I talked about how I started to notice what animals or insects students would come across on a daily basis where I was living. This can be applied to lots of other contexts. So even if you're teaching perhaps business English, think about what English do your students need to be able to perform better at work. So the third way we can avoid making this mistake as teachers is to actually get our students involved in the selection of vocabulary that you're going to use in the classroom. So with number 1, I talked about how you should do a needs analysis. From this needs analysis, perhaps you'll have a list of vocabulary areas that your students are interested in, especially if you're dealing with groups of students. And then you could get your students involved again in selecting which areas would they like to use in the class. And again, this is going to be really motivating for your students because then they will feel like they are involved. So the next time you have to teach vocabulary to your students, or the next time you're starting a new unit in your coursebook, think, is this vocabulary relevant or useful for my students? And if it's not, get rid of it and start thinking about what vocabulary is going to be useful for your students. Thank you for watching this video. I'm sure if you stop making this mistake, your students will become much more engaged with your lessons. I'll see you in the next video.